When Apple ditched the headphone jack from the iPhone 7 in September 2016, Samsung immediately jumped on the opportunity to launch a ruthless advertising campaign against its rival. During the launch of the Galaxy Note 7, Samsung executive Justin Dennison directly addressed the iPhone 7 controversy, asking the audience with a mocking smile,
"Do you want to know what else it comes with? An audio jack. I'm just saying."
As the crowd erupted in laughter. This statement set the tone for what would be a sustained ad campaign against Apple. Samsung's most memorable ad campaign was the Ingenious series launched in 2018 to promote the Galaxy S9. In one of the most iconic commercials, a customer at an Apple store asks if he can use his wired headphones with the iPhone X. The Apple employee says he'll need an adapter. When the customer asks about charging and listening to music at the same time, the employee says he'll need another adapter.
A dongle?
Yeah, a dongle. It comes in the box.
But what if I just need to charge at the same time?
Then you're gonna need another type of dongle.
Like a double dongle?
Yeah, double dongle, I guess.
That sounds explicit.
Samsung also released the Growing Up commercial in 2017, which followed a user buying different generations of the iPhone over the years, becoming increasingly frustrated with the device's limitations. A memorable scene showed the protagonist using a gigantic adapter to be able to charge his iPhone and use headphones at the same time, highlighting what Samsung called the dongle life. The irony reached its peak when Samsung released the Galaxy A8s in December 2018, its first smartphone without a headphone jack, barely 2 years after relentlessly mocking Apple for the same decision. But this was only the beginning. In August 2019, Samsung officially removed the headphone jack from the Galaxy Note 10, its flagship device. It initially tried to present its own solution, including a pair of USB-C headphones in the box, but then ended up selling a dongle separately to allow users to plug in their old headphones. The most embarrassing part of it all was Samsung's response after removing the headphone jack. The company quietly scrubbed all its ads that mocked Apple for this decision from its official YouTube channels. The Ingenious and Growing Up commercials disappeared as if they never existed, in a desperate attempt to erase the evidence of their hypocrisy. The reasons Samsung offered for removing the jack were equally questionable. A company representative told The Verge that removing the port allowed them to increase the battery by 100 milliamp hours and improve the haptic feedback by eliminating the hollow cavity needed for the jack. However, as several critics pointed out, the Galaxy Note 10 had an S Pen slot that was considerably larger than any headphone jack cavity. This case set a pattern that Samsung would repeat again and again, create elaborate ad campaigns to mock Apple's decisions, only to quietly adopt the same features years later and delete the evidence of their previous taunts. The removal of the anti-Apple ads was perhaps more embarrassing than simply leaving them online and admitting they had changed their minds. When Apple announced in October 2020 that the iPhone 12 wouldn't include a charger in the box, citing environmental reasons and reducing e-waste, Samsung immediately went into attack mode. On October 13, 2020, just hours after Apple's event, Samsung posted a simple but effective image on its official Facebook page, a Galaxy charger with the message "included with your Galaxy." The Facebook post continued, "Your Galaxy does give you what you're looking for, from the most basic as a charger to the best camera, battery, performance, memory, and even a 120Hz screen on a smartphone." This was a direct, calculated jab at Apple's decision, positioning Samsung as the superior alternative that still included the basics that Apple had decided to remove. Samsung also used multiple platforms to mock Apple, posting similar content on Twitter highlighting that their devices still included chargers, 120Hz displays, and 5G connectivity. The campaign was designed to capitalize on the controversy and position Samsung as the more complete consumer-focused option. However, rumors that Samsung would follow Apple's lead began to circulate just 2 months later. In December 2020, a Brazilian regulatory filing from Anatel confirmed that the upcoming Galaxy S21, S21 Plus, and S21 Ultra models would not include a charger or headphones in the box. The regulatory documents showed that none of the 3 new smartphones would be sold with these accessories. In January 2021, Samsung officially confirmed it would remove chargers and headphones from its phone boxes, following Apple's footsteps exactly. The company cited the same reasons as Apple, to reduce e-waste and for environmental benefits, although it was also speculated that the decision would help reduce production costs and increase profits. Following the pattern established with the headphone jack controversy, Samsung quietly deleted its Facebook post that mocked Apple for not including the charger. By December 2020, the post had vanished from Samsung's official accounts, in another attempt to erase the evidence of its earlier hypocrisy. What made this case particularly noteworthy was how quickly Samsung changed its position. While it maintained its stance on the headphone jack for almost 3 years before giving in, with the chargers, it only kept up its criticism for about 4 months before adopting the same practice. Apple introduced Face ID with the iPhone X in 2017 as a revolutionary 3D facial recognition system that used a sophisticated array of sensors, cameras, and dot projectors. The system was so complex and expensive to produce that it forced Apple to delay the iPhone X launch by more than a month. Face ID used true depth technology to create a detailed 3D map of the user's face, providing a level of security significantly superior to traditional 2D facial recognition systems. Still, Samsung mocked Apple's Face ID on multiple occasions, suggesting that its own facial recognition and fingerprint system was superior. In the 2018 Power ad, Samsung ridiculed Apple by insinuating that Face ID wasn't a unique advantage, showing how the Galaxy Note 9 offered the same function along with superior performance.
Galaxy Note 9 is really powerful, man.
Yeah, well, you know what I think is powerful? Being able to unlock your phone with your face.
It does that too.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know.
Samsung primarily used 2D facial recognition technology in its devices, which was considerably less secure than Face ID. Many of Samsung's smartphones didn't even have 2D facial recognition, and those that did could be easily fooled with photos or videos of the user. Galaxy S8 and later devices included iris scanners as an alternative to facial recognition, but even these were compromised by hackers from the Chaos Computer Club in Germany. In January 2020, during Samsung's presentation at CES, the company committed what many considered its most brazen act of copying Apple. It directly used Apple's Face ID icon in its own presentation. During a segment about Samsung Pass, a product that relies on biometrics to verify identities, Samsung showed a slide that included the recognizable Face ID icon along with other biometric sensors. The slide implied that all the listed sensors could be used to authenticate users. Samsung never explicitly named 3D facial recognition or any of the other biometric solutions on that slide. The presence of the Apple-like Face ID icon in Samsung's presentation was incredibly misleading and constituted a blatant lie. Users who knew the image's meaning might assume that Samsung also had 3D facial recognition on its devices, but that was not the case at all. Samsung's phones use 2D facial recognition, which is far less secure than a solution like Apple's Face ID. These two security features weren't even in the same league. What made this case particularly problematic was that it happened only a few months after Galaxy S10 and Note 10 users discovered that anyone could use any fingerprint to unlock these devices due to a security flaw. This security flaw was so severe that some banks advised customers not to use the fingerprint sensor on the S10 or Note 10 phones to access their apps. The use of the stolen Face ID icon from Apple while Samsung had such significant security problems on its own devices demonstrated a troubling disconnect between Samsung's marketing claims and its actual security capabilities. Even though many tech and news websites covering CES 2020 noticed Samsung's flagrant disregard for Apple's intellectual property, Samsung never offered an apology or explanation for the use of the Face ID icon. The company simply ignored the controversy and continued with its normal operations, demonstrating a casual attitude toward copying Apple's iconic visual elements.